I have to say that I had a lot of fun watching Deathgasm. I've been wanting to see a movie that's about metalheads for a while. I was starting to wonder when somebody would make a movie about metalheads, and this was the first one that I've seen that hasn't been a documentary so far. Deathgasm is a really cool indie dark comedy movie. It's like Evil Dead in that it's very campy. But I think that Evil Dead, the original one, was better in some ways because the whole movie was shot in one location. I won't compare Deathgasm with Evil Dead, though, because Deathgasm was an even funnier dark comedy than anything you could have ever hoped from Sam Raimi. I think my favorite scene in this was when Brody and Zach were in Brody's house fighting Brody's family. I especially loved the part where they found the sex toys and started using them as weapons against his family. I also loved when Brody took the chainsaw to his cousin's face and Zach said, "What'd you do that for? He wasn't possessed," which he wasn't. And Brody responded with, "Sure he was, didn't you hear him?" That was hysterical. In terms of how well written this movie was, Deathgasm wasn't poorly written, but it could have been done a lot better than it was. I think that the script was close to being fantastic, but Jason Leigh Howden put half-ass effort into the script, and it showed. Because there was a lot of campy and cheesy dialogue, but there were definitely some really well-written lines and a bit of good dialogue in this. For instance, I really liked the scene where Brody found out about Zach and Medina hooking up. I thought that particular scene was written very well. And the rest of the movie felt really underdeveloped, to be honest. Like the relationship with Brody and Medina. I think that the relationship they developed was unrealistic and stupid. One sin that all movies with a love story are eventually going to have to answer to is the inaccurate portrayal of how relationships, more specifically romantic relationships, form between two people. And this is an example of a woman falling in love with the main protagonist for no particular reason other than they are required to fall in love with the titular character. Another thing that I didn't like was that I think Jason Howden didn't know who he wanted the antagonist to be in Deathgasm. Because the guy that we initially believed to be the antagonist in this gets killed off close to the end of the movie, and it's not by the good guys, but instead he gets killed by his girlfriend because she wanted the power for herself. And I don't mind the fact that we had a female as an antagonist, but if you wanted to make her your bad guy, Jason Howden, then you should have made her the bad guy from the very start. There seems to be a really stupid trend starting, and I hope to God it doesn't grow into anything and that it dies out soon, where the writers of the movies don't introduce the villain in the beginning of the movie and instead choose to reveal the bad guy in the last 15 minutes before the movie is over. Take the movie Frozen, for instance. One reason I hate Frozen is because it introduces us to the villain 15 minutes before the movie is over, and you don't fucking do that. That shit annoys the hell out of me, and it needs to die. Anyway, that aside, I actually really liked Deathgasm. It's a bloodbath of pure awesome that you don't really get to see often unless you're watching a war movie or a Tarantino flick. Deathgasm gets 3.5 stars out of 5.